Ever noticed how divorce seems to follow a specific, almost eerie pattern? Not the legal filings or the splitting of bank accounts, but the transformation that happens inside. We've all seen the social media version, the glossy posts captioned "Living My Best Life," the wine nights, and the sudden explosion of girls' trips. On the surface, it looks like a long awaited exhale, as if divorce isn't a trauma but a liberation party. But if you've watched it happen from the inside or lived it yourself, you know there's a much darker story hiding under that polished wrapper. It's a scheme that repeats with such frightening precision, it starts to feel mystical. Today, we're going behind the curtain of this performance. We're exploring the psychological root that unfolds when a woman dismantles the foundation of her life to build something new on the ruins. Because the truth is, what looks like freedom from the outside can feel like falling into a bottomless abyss from the inside. Stick around, because once you see these patterns, you won't be able to unsee them. Picture a woman sitting in what used to be her shared home. The furniture stands differently now, and half the photos have vanished, leaving light patches on the walls like ghosts of a past that haven't faded yet. The routine she followed for years, the morning coffee, the predictable evening rhythm, has evaporated. In this silence, the mind desperately searches for a narrative to survive the uncertainty. This leads us into the first profile, the euphoria seeker. This stage of intoxication is stronger than any drink. She wakes up and realizes she has no one to answer to, no compromises to make, and no schedule but her own. She starts small, changing the wall color he never liked, or buying furniture that reflects only her taste. Suddenly, her social life explodes. Every evening carries the potential for a miracle. Men notice her again. Dating apps light up with matches that validate her worth in a way that feels addictive. She posts photos that get more likes than anything she shared in the last 5 years, feeding on dopamine hits that tell her she isn't just surviving, she's thriving. But here's the catch. Chemically, this euphoria is very similar to mania. It's a biological shield designed to protect the psyche from shock. It feels like enlightenment, but it's actually just neurochemistry doing its job before the high wears off. Then, usually somewhere between 6 months and a year, the novelty begins to level off, leading to a second profile, the plateau realist. The thrill of freedom starts to feel like just another routine. Modern dating, with its endless swiping and superficial small talk, begins to reveal its fundamental emptiness. She realizes that being wanted is not the same as being valued, and attraction is not the same as connection. The men pursuing her are often interested in the idea of a free woman, not the complex, grieving human being she actually is. This is where the comparisons begin. Quietly at first. Her mind starts measuring her current dates against the good moments of the past. She remembers how her ex-husband knew her history, her quirks, and exactly how to make her laugh when she was stressed. She realizes that building that kind of depth again takes years, and she's already exhausted from explaining her life story to strangers. This triggers an identity crisis no one warned her about. For decades, her identity was tied to being part of a union. Now she has complete autonomy. But autonomy without connection starts to feel like isolation. Maybe you've seen this in someone you know. The desperate pivot into self-improvement books and meditation, trying to find the self that was lost in the roles she played for years. As the second year approaches, we enter the third mindset, the reckoning. This is where the initial cocoon of support from friends begins to thin as everyone returns to their own lives. She is expected to have figured it all out by now, but the reality is far more complex. The dating scene might even cause revulsion at this point, filled with emotionally unavailable men or perpetual bachelors with obvious baggage. Then the financial reality hits. If she wasn't the primary earner, she discovers that single life is expensive. The standard of living she took for granted as part of a pair becomes unsustainable alone. She might find herself in a smaller apartment in a different neighborhood, making budget compromises that chip away at the very freedom she thought she gained. But the deepest weight is the existential loneliness of not having your person. She looks at her married friends, even the ones in imperfect marriages, and sees the shared responsibility she used to have. The grass that seems so green on the other side turns out to be artificial turf. In this phase, memory plays a cruel trick. It softens the arguments and highlights the comfort, leading to the haunting question: did I make a fatal mistake? This brings us to the final stage, the settlement. It manifests in a few different ways. Some women double down on their independence, building an armor of career and hobbies to convince themselves that needing someone is a weakness. Others, tired of the disappointment, lower the bar and agree to relationships that are simply good enough because being alone has lost its appeal. They often end up in situations even less fulfilling than the marriage they left. And then there are those who experience genuine regret. They realize that what they threw away wasn't perfect, but it was real. They reach out for coffee with their ex, casting lines for reconciliation, only to find that too much damage has been done or too much time has passed. The truth is, divorce is just an exchange of problems, not a cure for unhappiness. Real growth comes from changing yourself, not your marital status. The women who truly thrive are those who stop running and finally examine their own role in the collapse. How does this land for you? Do you recognize these phases in your own life? If you're ready for reality without the filters, subscribe to Psych Seduction. And thanks for watching.